Serious people who have had somebody die for you. What is your story? My brother jumped in front of his wife when a maniac was trying to run them over. My brother was killed on the 15th of November 2015 in Eugene, Oregon, while on a weekend getaway. He and his wife had just finished breakfast and were walking back to their car to go back to the place they were staying. As they were crossing the road, a man in a Toyota Highlander, who had just beat his parents with a baseball bat, killing the father and permanently injuring his mother, decided to drive into my brother and his wife at full speed. According to the police reconstruction and witnesses, my brother put his body in front of his wife's and took the brunt of the impact. He was killed instantly, and my brother's body slammed into his wife, breaking nearly all her bones on the left side of her body. She lived. R.I.P. Mark J. Sanford. A truly amazing man, brother, friend, son, stepfather and husband. I'm late to the party, so many won't see this. But I wanted to put this out there. Obvious throwaway because people know my personal account and I'm not ready to talk about it with most people. Most details are intentionally made ambiguous. The irony that I'm posting it here for everyone is not lost on me. I was in Afghanistan in 2011, working in humanitarian assistance / human terrain analysis. I was working in the southern part of a city in the southeast of the country, working in various villages / communities over the course of a few weeks. I have Middle Eastern / Southwest Asian features, so the Afghans took a liking to me. I got to know one village community particularly well, to the point that one of the younger boys, about 13, would always walk with me holding my hand, a sign of friendship in their culture. We'd talk about life in America, what his life was like in his Afghanistan, what he wanted to be when he grew up. Basic sheet, nothing serious. I left that community to work in other parts of the region for a little while, with the intention of coming back for one more visit before I went back to HQ to write reports and sheet. So I go back for that one visit to find the community cold to me, which is very unusual in Pashtunwali. Pashtuns is the ethnicity of the people in the area. Pashtunwali is like their ethnic code of conduct. As we're leaving the area, we found the body of the kid that was hanging out with me. He was executed by gunshot and left to rot in a ditch. He didn't die for me in the sense that he sacrificed himself for my sake. Rather, he died for being my friend. The people of that community refused to speak to any NATO forces after that. Not me personally, but it did affect me. For those who live in the US, you may have heard about this, as it made national news. I used to work at an elementary school, and one day during dismissal time, one of the parked school buses suddenly jumped the curb towards a group of children. The principal was not too far behind them and pushed them out of the way just in time before the bus hit her and killed her instantly. I was there when it happened. That was the bravest and most selfless thing I have ever seen anyone do, and proved her character in how passionate she was with working with children. When I was 7 years old, my mother and I got into a car accident. I was asleep in the front seat wearing no seatbelt. She saw the oncoming car approaching and threw herself on top of me, saving me from flying through the windshield, but killing her instantly. I think about her every day, and I want to live to tell her legacy. Her name was Jennifer Lee. Rwandan genocide survivor here. I lost my dad during the Rwandan genocide when I was 4 years old. He died protecting my sister, my mother, and me. The genocide was basically between two tribes, Hutus and Tutsis. My parents were each from different tribes. To make a long story short, both tribes were willing to take all of us in, but the non-verbal agreement was that the parent that wasn't from the appropriate tribe would be dealt with. Not wanting my mom to die, my dad chose to bring us to her tribe's side of the conflict, thus sealing his own death in the process. He was taken to some woods somewhere, and he had his head chopped off. What always gets to me is my mom telling me how he silently cried as he was taken away. My grandfather at the time was 94 years old. My 4-year-old daughter got the flu, which she then gave to me. I was homesick with my daughter, and I couldn't even take care of myself, let alone my daughter. My grandfather took care of the both of us. I remember waking up to him covering me with a blanket, like when I was a child. He ended up getting the flu from us, and his respiratory system couldn't take it. He passed because he took care of me and my daughter, and it makes me cry every time I remember that. I've posted this on other threads before, but it's a story about my dad. It was winter time when I was 10. My father and I were walking across the ice covering the canal across from his house. I believe we were going for lunch. Before I realized what was going on, the ice broke from under us, and after some time of struggling to stay afloat, someone had finally noticed us in the water, encircled with ice. The guy threw an extension cord out to us. My dad told me to grab hold of it, and he pushed hard on me to get me up on the ice, so the guy could pull me to shore. As he pushed up on me, I looked back to see his face disappear under the water. That was the last time I ever saw him. I have been suicidal for a couple of months. When I was 21, I guess it's always been there, but some things in my life triggered it. I knew I didn't want to die, but something inside me was telling me it's the right choice and that no one really wanted me in their life. So I started to plan my suicide, without anyone knowing. Around that time, my sister-in-law got sick and passed away right on New Year's Eve, and suddenly I got 2 small children to care for. At first, I didn't know what to do. My plans were basically changed super fast. I didn't have time to think on what just happened. But these children changed me. I started to see that yes, I'm worth something and needed, and nothing makes me cry so much than thinking of dying and leaving these kids with more death in their life. I don't know if it counts or not, but I was basically saved by these kids and their mom. Sorry, this is another not me, but when we were 7, my best friend's mom was at a bar not far from where we grew up. I guess a guy there was getting really rowdy and the management asked him to leave. As he was being kicked out, he drunkenly yelled something along the lines of "I'll come back and kill every person in this place." I don't think anyone took him seriously, but later that night he returned with a gun and opened fire on the people in the bar. Her mom ushered some of her friends into the kitchen to hide. She got them all into a pantry, but he came in and caught them. He shot her in the head and moved on to the rest of the bar. She died protecting her friends. A few weeks later, at a different bar in a different state, my friend's dad was shot and killed also. She was orphaned at 7 years old and was then raised by her grandmother. We don't talk about it very often, but on holidays like Mother or Father's Day I know I need to check in on her. My brother died for me 13 years ago yesterday. We were alone at a beach in Mexico, no lifeguards, while our dad was taking care of some business. The water had been rough the day before, but my brother wanted to take a swim, so we went in anyway. Messing around in the water with one of those disposable underwater cameras, we got distracted and didn't realize how far we'd been pulled out. Suddenly we realized we were in a rip current and how big the waves around us were. Tried to swim back, but couldn't, and at this point I'm panicking, yelling for help, and telling my brother I don't want to die. He says I won't, stays with me, and yells for help. Someone at one of the beachside restaurants finally notices us and jumps into the water with a boogie board. They swim up to us and tell us to hang on to the board. My brother and I are holding hands in the board together. One wave later, and we're ripped apart. That was the last time I saw him. I live for him every day. He was and is my best friend. My mom died giving birth to me. I didn't find out about the circumstances of her death until I was 7, and my aunt said something about it to me. It messed me up for a while. I often wonder what my life would have been like if she was around. I had very little female influence in my life. I was raised by my dad and 5 brothers. Dad just treated me like one of the boys, so I grew up working on cars and motorcycles. My dad has never dated anyone since. That sometimes makes me sad too. I look at all the joy my husband brings into my life and want that for him, but I think he is just done with that part of his life. My brothers will sometimes tell stories about her. It's really the only way I know anything about her. There are some pictures around too. People tell me I look just like her and have the same attitude. I just have to take their word for it. I'm older now than she ever was. I look at all the things going on in my life and I feel incredibly guilty for taking that away from her. It makes me want to live my life in a way that I think would make her proud. My father's best friend growing up passed away before I was born, but in an absolutely heroic manner. My parents and godfather Glenn were rafting along the Colorado River in the early 90s. Following a large section of rapids, they decided to take a break along the shore. Shortly after, they heard screams for help from upstream, closer to the rapids. A young boy had fallen out of a raft without a life jacket on. Glenn rushed up the shore with his life jacket and jumped in the white water, swimming towards the boy. He was able to take his own life jacket off, attach it to the boy, and fasten it before he was pulled down by the current. My parents were quite distraught for some time after. They hold Glenn in a different light in their minds and decided to give me, their first son, a part of him. My middle name is Glenn. I'm very proud to have had someone like that as a direct influence on my life. We sold drugs, and let's call him Jay. I got into it to help him out, but it was my choice all the way. We were just kids. I was 15. On our days off, we posted up outside a liquor store and just hung out, talked about whatever came to mind. Maybe we had some customers pass by, put some work in, but that wasn't why we hung out there. It was quiet, nobody bothered us much, and we got to just chill. Apparently he had a reputation I wasn't aware of with some other crew, because one day I saw a car around the corner after sunset with no lights on. They didn't stop, but slowed down around the store, and I thought back, quote, alright, sketchy customer, get the bags ready. Then the window came down, and I saw the barrel stick out. I froze, but Jay was quick, got in front of me, and brought me down, while I just heard 2 shots, and then the car speeding away. I got grazed, but he got hit in his midsection, and in the head. He was a lot taller than me, so the headshot missed me completely. He didn't die immediately. I held him, and called 911. I don't remember talking to the operator. I just remember looking at him, and being able to tell the second he died. It really is a lights out moment, where they just aren't there anymore. I've recently learned that the name for what I did after that was called back, quote, keening. Moaning or screaming in response to someone's death. I just yelled and yelled, cried, and screamed. It's been 12 years, and I'm fine now, but I keep his memory with me and realize that we put ourselves in that danger, so I take more responsibility for the situations I put myself and my loved ones in. Edit, this is my most popular post. I do appreciate the well wishes and condolences. To be politely brief, thank you all. My English may be weird, I'm sorry. I don't know if this counts, and I don't want to go into detail, but my mother took me when I was 8 years old from Sinuiju, North Korea with a refugee group to the north of the border of China and North Korea, and fled to Thailand, and then to South Korea. The important thing is that my family, father and my extended family still lived in Sinuiju. They did not want to leave due to fear of capture and fear of the United States propaganda, so my mother took it in her own hands. Most likely my family has perished for my mother and my actions. Edit, my mother towards the end told me that longer we stay alive, the bad memories that we have will slowly be replaced by new good memories. We just have to stay alive. My mother has since passed away. She became deranged and stressed that led to her death at an early age, and I since moved to the United States after graduating at Seoul National University in English and Business International. Because of my family's sacrifice I can have a somewhat normal life, but I can never forgive myself for my mother and my actions, and I have never told anyone. I don't deserve this life, but I have to live with it.